You can see here, this says the three activities of the mind. Shalosh pulot hasechel. That means get a clear picture of it. I'm using the lashon of the Ramchal. Get a clear picture of it. And organize it. Number two, there's insight. Insight is taking the mind. This is something, we do this all the time. This is what we are doing. And the Gemara follows this method. I mean, it's not a method. This is what the Gemara is doing. The human minds wrote it. It's kadosh, but human minds wrote it, and this is how they did it. We want to study it and then be able to show and track in the Gemara how they're proceeding. That's our job. That's what we're here for. And now Ramchal helps us do it. So there are three things our mind does. We try to comprehend things. We have insights. Insights, which is number two, the blue one, the blue column, is that we take what we know and we mechadesh. Our mind is creative, and it's creative in certain forms. We're going to do that, and then the third one is decision making. We then decide, we accept, we reject, we bring rayas, we bring stiras, we have kushiyas, we have terutzim, to decide if that idea is acceptable to us or not. That, I'm giving it to you very general, because we're going to do the specifics of each group. That's why. But I want you to get an idea, a picture of what we're doing. It's not what we're doing. This is what our mind does. The Ramchal happened to write us a work to explain to us what our mind's doing. That's the whole thing. And the Gemara does the same thing. And it follows this breakdown and this method. The actual application of the method, which we have to do the Shakla V'Tarya, which is a different part of the Sefer, and I'll have a different printout for you for that. They really go together, is built on this. These are really the foundations. The Ramchal explained to us that when the Gemara took the arguments, the Shakla V'Tarya, to be able to do three things: understand what it wants to talk about, what the Mishnah is talking about, what that day of the Mishnah is, what the Meimer of the Mishnah is, or the Chumash. They try to first understand it, and we have all these parts of understanding. Then it wants to say, oh, either what a chidushim is going to come out of it, which means when we're going to extend to a gray case, something that's not known, we have to see, as I explained last time, that idea of known information, the Mishnahs, and how we are going to bridge to them to say that this case, which is Eino Yadua, is unclear to us. We don't know the din. How it's going to connect up to that. And then we're going to machriya. We bring rayas and stiras and kashas and terutzim to figure out. And the Gemara basically comes down to the maskanas HaGemara. Maskanas HaGemara means they're making a decision. So I'd ask you, hey, teach me, what are the rules of their decision making? There are rules for their decision making. There are rules. There is structure. It's very structured. And they have rules to it. So that's in the green part, number 3. We're going to cover all of these, Bezrat Hashem, and then we're going to actually apply them. The application of them is called the Shakla V'Tarya. But this is the foundations of the Shakla V'Tarya, of that dialogue, the focused dialogue. Okay? So first I want to get you into these, and then we'll do the Shakla V'Tarya, and then we will do, in the last session, Bezrat Hashem, what questions to ask yourself when you're going through the Shakla V'Tarya. But the better you have the foundations that it's all based on, first, the better you'll understand Gemara, the better you'll be able to apply it any place. Good. What did we do in last class? All the way over in the left-hand column, as you look at the page, we have this, the meaning of a statement. That's first column. And you can see we did already subject, an all subject, a some subject, a one subject. We got involved in the predicates where they were affirmed and denied. And then we got involved in all these different types of statements. The first 5, simple, qualified, alone, except being and on condition being the simple ones, and the other 6 being the complex ones. That's what we want to do. We didn't accomplish it all, so we're going to pick it up there and then go forward. What we hope to, on the syllabus, what we're supposed to do today, maybe we'll get to Bezrat Hashem, is the next one, which is relationship between 2 statements, and then diyukim. the last of the red. Logically forced diyukim and not logically forced diyukim. Okay? Any questions? Oh, one other thing. You'll notice, by the way, that we go from the simplest unit, that's how the Ramchal laid it out for us, and our mind does that too. The simplest unit being a sentence, one communication, one dibur, using all these words together. The Gemara says one, or the Mishnah says one thing. That's over here. Then we go to column number 2, the relationship between two of those one things. Diyukim fits in an interesting way. Then you go to insight, chiddush, the blue column, which is now chidushim. You know what a chiddush is? I'll explain to you all the creativity of the mind, whether you're Einstein, lahavdil of haldevos, or you're a thing like that, or just the kids who's deciding to, I don't know, on the street playing marbles. It all is one very basic, simple thing. You take one thing you know, and you take another thing you know, and you put them together, and you come out with a third thing. That's called, it's a logical structure. It's really technically called a hekesh or syllogism. A hekesh, the technical term of hekesh, which means built on two words in the Chumash, which this word is the same as this word, and we get a chiddush out of it, that's a subgroup of that type of hekesh. That's specifically built on the exact same word. But a chiddush is this, put them together and you say, aha, oh, now I understand. That's what the mind did. We'll explain it, I think, next time, Bezrat Hashem. I have a friend of mine who is translating this book, Derek Tfunos, into French. He's a man with a doctorate from the Sorbonne, but he's an old chaver of mine. And he gave me, as a matana, the Rambam also wrote a book on logic and method of the Gemara. It's called Milos HaHigayon La Rambam. Rambam was a Rishon, the Ramchal is an Achron. So I've had it for many, many years. He gave me an English translation of it, which was written in 1936, I believe. And so I started reading it on a Friday or Thursday or something like that, and I saw a word that I like much better, much more simplified. You'll tell me if you like it. A simplified, and I changed the terms. But it used to be using subject and predicate. I want to get away from those because all the bad connotations and stuff. I'll explain the many different types of things in seconds. But something you want to talk about, let's call it a thing. And it's information, something about it. So the thing I want to talk about is a table. What do I want to say about it? I want to say it's actually going to be a mikra or a quality of it, some information about it. The information is that it's flat. If we go further, Bezrat Hashem, and even if we do the course in logic, you'll see there's many different types of things you can talk about. In the book of logic that the Ramchal wrote, which is the sequel to this, so you can have, he has a list of etzem and mikras. A thing you can talk about, it can be a certain quantity, a certain quality, a certain action, a certain effect. It can be a time, a place, a thing. There's many different types of things you can talk about. But whatever it is, and the Gemara talks about all different kinds of things, we in life talk about all different kinds of things, you're going to have a thing and something you want to say about it. I actually would like feedback if that's, I think that's better than, and it's information. Yeah, thank you. And then I gave the examples. So, okay, now, that being said, I would like to go over, I don't know how many of you actually looked at those examples that I gave you to take home with, or to look at them, about things and their information. So I'm assuming, this has nothing to do with you guys, I'm assuming that people didn't have so much time, because I didn't have so much time. So if I didn't have time, you didn't have time. So what I want to do is, I did more, and I added some of them. I even added ones from Daving, and I brought pencils for you. So if you guys want, we could, who doesn't have a pencil, take a pencil. Give these out too, please. Yeah, take these out. Oh, we need to do the complex statements. We didn't get a chance to do them last time. Thank you. You have it, and that I didn't change so much. The multiple, number 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Let's start here. I don't know if any of you got a chance to look at them or not, but it's kedai to spend the time. Because this is really part of that first. If you don't, you're going to be getting them again. So don't worry about it. I have one more. In that the yellow thing. I want to in the back, that part that's open. No, the other side, right there. I think it should be there. Okay, let's go through these. Multiple. Remember, all these are complex sentences. Complex sentences. There's going to be 6 of them. They are. What does it mean? Now we are having either a multiple thing. We're talking about multiple things, or multiple pieces of information about either one thing or 2 things. Multiples. In our simple sentences, we had one. We were only talking about one thing, and one piece of information about that one thing. Those were our first 5. And now in the complex ones, we're going to be talking about multiples. Now here we're interested in the form of those multiples. When you're going to talk to me either about 2 things, say one piece of information about those 2 things, or you're going to talk about one thing and 2 pieces of information about it, I'm interested now in that. You remember that one of the things we said by the simple sentences was we went from the most open sentence, an undefined sentence, to miyutim, certain types of limitations, constrictions. We kind of went down like this, an inverted pyramid. I go like this meanings because we started with an undefined statement. The first statement was an undefined, it was a smishtam. Our example was Nashim Chayav B'Kedish Hayom, or one I saw on Shabbos, which I said a whole Dvar Torah about, Taher Libeinu La'avdecha Be'emes. We say Hashem. What are we talking about there? Taher Libeinu. The thing we're talking about is Hashem being Mataher us. That's what we want to talk about. Hashem Mataher us. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. What's the piece of information that we want to say about Hashem Mataher Libeinu? We want to say about it the purpose of that, the goal, the tachlis. We want to say Hashem Taher Libeinu. That's the thing. About it we want to say the tachlis, which is la'avdecha be'emes. So it's one thing and one piece of information about it. Happens to be the piece of information is talking about the purpose why Hashem should mataher libeinu. We could say mataher libeinu, well, better lives, mataher libeinu, so we'll be better husbands, wives, whatever it is. We didn't. We say taher libeinu la'avdecha be'emes. That's a simple, undefined statement. We didn't say only do it on Tuesdays. We didn't say only do it when we're tzaddikim. We didn't limit it. We didn't say only us, not the goyim. There was no constriction. It was an open statement. Taher libeinu la'avdecha be'emes. Okay? Anybody else want to try to give me another stam statement? Just anything. It could be Tefillah is a great place. The Anshe Knesset Gedolah wrote a tremendous amount of stuff for us there. Anybody else? Anything. And the truth is, by the way, you don't have to do something complicated. Just tell me, Ruvain walked to the store. Undefined statement. Ola. I didn't say only Ruvain. I didn't say he definitely went to the store. I kept it totally open. All those other simple ones are going to come with constrictions and limitations. A tanai. If it's not raining, Ruvain will walk to the store. It's a tanai, a condition.
On your first one,
yeah. Ah, okay. You mean you're saying la'avdecha as opposed to la'avod avodah zarah? I mean, you know. Ah, be'emes. You'll say it's a limitation to emes.
Or emes is a limitation to how we're serving him.
Ah, okay. I accept that. I accept that. You'll say, look, there's a limitation there. It says we could have just say entirely ben la'avdecha. So the emes will be a miyut. Good. I accept. I accept. So which one of our simple statements will that be? Okay, so everybody look, what kind of, which one will that be? Will that be a limitation of, what kind of limitation that's? Taher libeinu la'avdecha be'emes. It is, by the way, interesting, we only say that on Shabbos and Yontos. right? We don't say it during the week. Okay, that's for the that's a different part of this year. But maybe it's a condition. Maybe it's the last one, number 5, a mugbal, a condition statement. Because we're saying tahir libein, as you said, it's specific. We're saying it for that aspect alone. Okay, good. But then you have the constrictions. Okay, let's move to multiples. So let's go through them. The first one is a merubah, where more than one, you see I didn't change all the language here, but more than one subject or predicate are involved, more than one thing or one piece of information about it. Now you have basically an A and B, you see you have two types. You have an and or an or statement. You can say Reuven and Shimon went to learn. So it's merubah because we're going to be talking about two things, two people in this case, Reuven and Shimon, and you'll say the same piece of information about it. Or you can say or. Either David or Yonasan are going to be the melech. Can't have two kings, as we know, the sun and the moon, you can't have two kings. So only one of them is going to make it. It was either David HaMelech or Yonasan, who was really supposed to make it, or going to make it. Or, why is it, if you're only in the end, what's mashma, one or the other, so that means both of them have to have the potential to have that piece of information. You can't say David and some schlepper in the street was going to be the king. It's not shaykh by that schlepper. It's only shaykh to the one who has the potential and the ability to do it. Even though in the end you're telling me only one's going to make it. But this type of multiple is an and or an or. In the and, if you look in Derech Tfunos, I'll tell it to you about it, you have the and can work in two ways. I'll tell you quickly, but listen just to hear it, ask me about it later. I don't want to spend too much time and I didn't even write it down. And it can be zu. First it can be, the two ands can be said equally, or, which means they both are a chiddush, or one can be the chiddush, and the other one is just derech hagav, which you know we have many terutzim in Mishnahs and Brises. Hey, how come they're both there? You'll say, no, the chiddush is this one, the other one is just derech hagav, stylistically and things like that. So again, you can have it, when you're in the and, you can have it where they're both equal or not equal. And it happens to be a not equal, can be zu, ve'ein tzarich lomar zu, v'zu v'afsu. A kol shekain. A kol shekain means that the first one was a chiddush. The second one, I don't need it already. That's what a kol shekain is. Again, a kol shekain is going to be this type of and sentence, a number 7. Because you're telling me the first one was a chiddush and the second was kol shekain. It's obvious. I didn't have to tell you. So that's going to be an example of the ands where they're not equal. The first one's the chiddush. The second one is not even necessary. It's a kol shekain. First one, so this, it's obvious already. Obvious. You really need to tell me. So, okay. People think the kol shekain, the normal thing, I always thought the kol shekain example was that the kol shekain is the chiddush. It's not true. Technically, the kol shekain is pshita, because that's what you're saying. If I know A, B, it's obvious. It's kol shekain. It's all the more so. Which means the chiddush was in A, in the first one. So that's an example, just to, whenever you have any kol shekain, you should know you're in a number 7 or multiple sentence. Okay? Good? What would you do with this? V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha. Okay, you don't have this down, but you can write it down. There's an example. I actually wrote it, but it didn't print out. V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha b'chol meyodecha. Are you guys familiar with that? Yeah, okay, good. So it says, V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha b'chol meyodecha. That's an example of a multiple statement, one of these. It happens to be, what's the thing we're going to be talked about is that we have to love Hashem. And now we're going to say 3 pieces of information about that. V'ahavta es Elokecha, that's going to be our thing we're talking about, or our b'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol miyodecha. Those are three things we're saying about us loving Hashem. You have to love Him with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. Each one equally on that. Really, I told you, we'll spell that out. That's a shortened version. It really should be V'ahavta es Hashem l'kecha b'chol levavcha, V'ahavta es Hashem l'kecha b'chol nafshecha, V'ahavta es Hashem l'kecha b'chol levavcha, b'chol modecha. That's really what it means, spelled out. But we don't talk that way. We take, since they have a common piece of information, there's three pieces of information about that, we just give the thing once, and then we go, boop, boop, boop. But that is an example of a multiple.
Because of the ands in it.
Yes. We have three pieces of information, and they're all being said about the V'ahavta es Hashem lokecha. That's this type of statement. Good? Okay. Good. Oh, by the way, according to what I just told you, would you say any one of those three is more of a chiddush than the others? Remember, I told you in an and statement, you can either be, in an and statement, they can be both, or here in this case, three, juggling three, it's equals, or maybe one's a bigger chiddush. And they're not, each piece of information is not said to the equal strength, and we use the word chiddush there to the original thing. Okay, you have to tell me later. Okay, next. The next is, and that, by the way, in Hebrew you see as a maimon meruba in yanim. An or statement is, an or statement, by the way, which is the other type of multiple, obviously cannot be two different strengths. They can't be two different strengths. I would make a dimyon and a comparison between that and an aboya in the Gemara. One of the rules of an aboya in the Gemara, what is an aboya in the Gemara? We're saying, is this what caused it? Is this the factor? Or is that the factor? We'll see, we have a piece in our Gemara, we'll see it in either, I'm not sure we'll get there today. What's an aboya? An aboya says, listen, tell me please, I have a shayla. It's a type of question. Is this what caused it, or is that what caused it? Or it doesn't have to be cause. Is it A or is it B? Right? Or is it this or that? That's an aboya. One of the rules of aboya is that they have to be said, they have to have equal strength. They didn't have, if the two of them were not equal, didn't have equal muscles, so you'd say, so why is the Gemara asking aboya? That doesn't make sense. Tell the stronger one is obviously going to be your answer already. Why did it have an aboya? So when in an or statement, right, you must have two, as we know, in an aboya in the Gemara, there's going to be two equal possibilities. Sometimes the Gemara will talk out the two svaras of the aboya on both sides, if it doesn't think that you can get it by yourself. But if it thinks you can, and it knows you should be able to get it by yourself, it just tells you, it doesn't speak out the svaras. But the svaras have to be equal. Otherwise, why is it, tell me, the answer is with the strongest one. But that's in the multiple and the or. So that's one of the differences in a multiple statement between an and an or. Any questions? Please, I'd be thrilled for you to ask me. Okay, let's go to number 2, an exclusion. Number 8, an exclusion, shlila, where one of the multiples is actually denying, the other is affirmed. The active words, you'll see this, or not this but that, either aval or a lo ella. If you see a lo ella, not always, but many times it means, I'm telling you, not this, but that. So it's really one thing we're talking about, usually, and we're saying about two pieces of information. One piece of information, I'm saying that's not true about it, but this is true about it. So there, obviously, there is a dynamic between what can't be, that piece of information that's not being said about the thing, our subject, and what is being said about the subject. That's a Mayim Shlila. If you look in the beginning of Mesilas Yesharim, the Ramchal writes tons of sentences like this, because he's coming to eliminate, saying, don't think this, but that. It's not this, but that. It's not oilam hazeh, but oilam haba. Lo oilam hazeh, ella oilam haba. The ikar of man is not tons of it, because it's a very tight way to write. You're eliminating and you're affirming. So it's a very, very, very important to understand what it is. Okay, number 9, an afalpi, apparently contradictory. It's called in Hebrew a machish, where we think we had a havamina. One multiple denies the other. But in the end, it really doesn't. You're going to say, listen, because it's Ruvain, because he'd be cold, he'd be snowed on if he went outside. Or even, let me say it like this. Ruvain, even though it's snowing out, he's going to shul daven with a minyan. So you think, since it's snowing out, which really means he's going to freeze if he goes out there. So Ruvain, who's what we talk about, we're saying, since he's going to freeze if he goes out because it's snowing, but he's there, you would think he's not going to go to shul to daven with a minyan. He is. Afal pichein, he is. So there, the two pieces of information are that one is he's going to freeze, Ruvain's going to freeze when he goes out, and the other one is afal pichein. You thought that freezing would make it that he won't go? Afal pichein, he'll go. So you're really affirming two things in Ruvain: that he will freeze, afal pichein, he is going to go. So what's interesting there, of course, is the dynamic, the tension between those two, which is one of the things we're really interested in our multiple statements. Because, many people, times you'll have a kasha, you'll say, listen, I understand you told me that he's going to freeze. And number 2, I told you understand he's going to shul. Some will have a kasha, why? I never thought that freezing would have stopped Ruvain to go to shul, daven with a minyan. He will fight you. The kasha will come on the tension between those two that a person said when he said the afal pi. Said, that's not true. It's not really an afal pi. He would have gone anyway, even if it was, a tornado, hurricane. Always goes. So then he's attacking your afal pi, the dynamic between the two. Good? Bad? Indifferent? Questions? Yeah, afal pi, afal gav. That's pretty much it. In these words, the Ramchal's system in general is you have to think for yourself. He's going to help you and give you the formats. He's going to give you the categories, the boxes, the specific. But in the end, it can be an afal pi statement, even though it never says the words afal pi. The other way is usually if it says it, then that's what it is. If it has the classic language, then most of the times it is that. But it doesn't mean that if it doesn't have the language, let's say there's no afal pi there, but conceptually, that's what they're telling you. They're telling you because he'd freeze, he wouldn't go. But he didn't say afal pi. You have to read it. Now that you know that what your possibilities are, you'll say, oh, that's what that is. Huh? A mihu? A mihu? A mihu? I don't know. Is it? I guess it is. Is it a mihu? Did you have the book for your kids years ago? There was a Mihu, the great detective, who found the chametz on Erev Pesach. Did any of you guys have Mihu, the detective book? Anyway. So, what? No, I mean, however, afal pi. Yeah, that usually is one of the classic forms. A mihu. Even though you say, however, this was a makol makom. Makol makom will be a classic form. A mihu will be a classic form. But remember, the rule here, we're looking for in the multiples, we're interested in the dynamic. Because we already learned in the basic ones, the relationship between a thing and its information. Here, what are we adding on is that the dynamic between the multiples. You would say, listen, David and Yonatan are both kings. You would say, hey, how are those two together? No, that's a chiddush. That you would put Yonatan with David, or really the other way. You'd put David with Yonatan. Yonatan was the heir apparent of Shaul HaMelech. You put David with him was a tremendous chiddush. After the fact, we understood it was really flipped over the other way. But again, it's the dynamic of those that we're interested in the multiples. Okay, number 10. A meduma statement, a comparative statement, where we learn one multiple from the other. The language is chamochein or dome. In all comparisons, which are huge, we learn so much by comparing things. A child, when he touches a hot oven, ow, he burned. He didn't know. Okay, got turned. He got burnt. He sees an oven that was in his mother's home. Now he goes to his aunt's home or his uncle's home or his grandparents' home, and he says, "Oh, I know you. I've had involvement with one of you guys before. Your brother oven over in mommy's house. Yeah, I touched it." And what did he do? What did that kid do? He did a very, very highly developed thing. I mean, even though Hashem gives us that as a matana to do it, he made a dinyon. He said, oven, hot. How did he know that? It got burnt. That was his mommy's house. He goes to his grandparents' house. He says, either with, or he sees the oven, same structure, sitting in the kitchen, whatever it is. He goes, no touch. That's intelligence, folks. That's a chiddush. The kid produced a chiddush. He didn't know if that oven in grandma's house, in Bubby's house, was going to burn him. He was machadesh it by taking a piece of information that he knew, which was that mommy's oven burnt him. He made a dimyon between mommy's oven and Bubby's oven, and he said, don't touch it. Thing sounds so simple. We are giving it to it as a gift, as 2-year-olds. Foundation for so many Gemaras, you have no idea. Where we learn an unknown thing from a known thing. So is the basic beginning of that. I'm comparing Bubby's oven to mommy's oven. And that's how we learn many, many things, as we will get into. Anyway, there, of course, what interests us is the difference between that when the child does it, or we'll do it, we'll learn from that. And the language is dome chmochein. It's one of the essential ways that the mind understands from the youngest ages, and even in Torah all the time. Use in our thinking. One multiple is affirmed because of fikach, all those things. This because of the first one. Because so, therefore, since, consequently. See what this is? Oh, the example. It is not possible for any intelligent, person to believe that the end purpose of man's creation is for their condition in this world. Because what is man's life in this world? Because man, understands that his life is nothing or is limited or however you describe, therefore he understands that the goal of my neshama is not here. Because of what's mandated. Now you have to really translate that sentence to make it what would be the thing, and what's the 2 pieces of information about it. Anybody want to take a crack at it? That's actually a little bit wrong. Let's go to here. Turn the page. Let's do the first one in Hebrew. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh. Who wants to tell me it is a multiple? So tell me what the thing is that we're talking about, and tell me the 2 pieces of information. Actually, it's the other way. It's 2 things we're talking about with 1 piece of information about both of those things. But it's a multiple. Okay? Anybody just want to say it out? Yes. Those are the things we're talking about. I say both about their kadosh. Good. Simple. Good. Who are we talking, or what are we talking about, and what are the 2 pieces of information that we're talking about it? Right, we're talking about Hashem, the Atah, talking about Hashem, and we'll say 2 pieces of information about Hashem. So again, a multiple, where the first multiple, Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, we were doing 2 things with 1 piece of information. This one is 1 thing with 2 pieces of information. Right? Atah is talking about Hashem, and we're saying 2 pieces of information about Hashem. He's choinen la'adam das, number 1. And number two, the second thing this is telling us about Hashem, piece of information about him, he's melamed le'enosh bina. So we come away, we say Hashem is what we're talking about, that's the thing, and we two things about it. The Anshe Knesset Gedolah told us two things about Hashem. I mean, we were asking Hashem to do it, but two things. He's chonin la'adam das melamed le'enosh bina. And that's how you have to see it. Go to the bottom page. I wrote this. I hope it helps in the English part. The listener must always try to understand the intention of the speaker. It's not, you see that? It's in the sheet that I gave out today here. It was new. I wrote it this morning, actually. I mean, I've been thinking about it for about 10 years, but I wrote it this morning. I wrote it in different forms many times. The listener must always try to understand the intention of the speaker. When you hear somebody or you read something, whether it's from Hashem in the Chumash, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, the Mishnayos, Rav Ashi in the Gemara, or any of the Achronim Rishonim, or it happens to be your wife, your children, your parents, it makes no difference, and it makes no difference whether you're hearing it or reading it. You have to understand, you have to aim for, the words are like the form that you're getting, but you're not, the words are the intermediary. You want to understand, and what your aim is, we're not trained like this so much. I mean, truth is we are, but what your aim is what does he want to tell you? Forget what words he uses. You can have, especially with children or who they can't express themselves so well. Or other people, when you get to more complex things, emotions, a person has a hard time, even older people, express themselves. You have to aim, what do they want to tell you? Forget what the words are. Obviously, the words are going to be the main way that you're going to get it. But we talk about body language, we talk about other things, we talk about syntax, what do they want to communicate to you? You hit that, that's what you're looking for. That's what you're looking for. That's why we can be, when a person says a one-word sentence, no! Hey, come on, I learned in the Ramchal that everything has to have a thing and information. You're telling me just information. No. What were you talking about? Well, you know very well what I was talking about. You know what they were talking about. That's part of it. We do it naturally. So you have to aim for that. The Chazal, what they wanted to tell you, of course they're using words to do it. The listener does this by finding the thing and the information in what was actually said. The way to help you to do that better is to use the tools that we've been speaking of. Try to pin down what you're looking at. Okay, what that person who's talking to me, it's not clear to me. What does he want to tell me? What does he want to talk about? What piece of information does he want, or multiple pieces of information does he want to give about that? Whether it's talking about himself or about me, our relationship. He's talking about Hashem. He's talking about Kefil. He's talking about Chazaka and Kinyan. Well, I don't care that makes no difference. What does he want to tell me? Now, once you put it in those forms, then he reformats it. Then you have to try to reformat it in one of these direct forms. These 11 that we've had are the classic, simple, not in the sense that you can have complex ones too, but they're like the most simple forms of a communication. Once you do that, I don't know if it came out in the rest of it. This gives, turn the page, this gives the listener a clear picture, which is also easier to work with and remember. To understand somebody well, what do you want? You want to understand what they're saying? You want to get that picture of what they have in their mind in your mind? It is then easier for you to work with, because then to understand clearly what the kasha is, or what you have, question you have about it, it's also going to be easier for you to remember it. Because you've now done that work to not just hear it, but to like get a clarity in it in your own terms. That will stick, and you put it in a form that you're familiar with. These classic direct forms, that will stick with you. And that's how you want to store your information on your hard drive, if we use that computer language. You want to store that, and remember, the Gemara is going to manipulate things. A discussion is, it's going through kashas, terutzim, and things like that. The Chachamim, of course, never argued with anybody until they had a clear picture of what the other person was saying to them. We do it all the time. all the time, we don't really understand what the other guy wants, and I'll just, I know he's arguing with me. I know he doesn't like what I said. I'll attack him right away. Did we understand really what he meant? No. We do it all the time. Chazal, of course, never did that. They'd ask the other person, well, what do you mean? Do you mean in this case? And they gained information. Now I understand what you're talking about. Now I can tell you, I think you're totally wrong. You're totally out of the box. But first we have to do this pa'ula of understanding it. Sometimes you have to ask more information. Sometimes the Gemara does. Ketzad. Ask for information. Okay. Good. There's more examples here. Work on them. Pick up any sitter. Pick up anything. And you have them. Okay. Now that we do one sentence, we're ready to put that, if you look at your map. Look at your map for a second. That was column 1. Column 2. Column 2 is going to be the positioning. Here there's an old sheet I made many years ago called the relationship between statements, or what I now call the positioning between two statements. And you see you have 6 types. We're really only going to learn, we're really basically interested in 3. And now, let everybody take these. The Ramchal tells us that any sentence or any communication that was ever uttered by any human being, including Moshe Rabbeinu, Shlomo HaMelech, down to whoever, whatever, Russia, to Bilam and Balak, there never existed any other but these. This is the total range of how something can be communicated. You have Now remember, there's variations. I can put in a multiple sentence. I can put constriction in a multiple sentence, and especially if there are combos. But the basic structural will be that. I don't want to do it now, but if we did Mesilas Yesharim in the beginning, pretty much I brought examples there from the Hakdama and Perek Aleph and Beis. You'll see there what the Ramchal does many times. And it's an interesting exercise. If we have time or you want to call me, something like that, I'd be thrilled to do it with you. He will make combos of the forms, or he'll take one form and put it into another form. In other words, you'll see a Maimar Shlila, a low Ella statement, and I'll have a low Ella in a low Ella. And you have to, and that's not just him. I mean, he just writes very classically, so it's easy to see it. Once you have this, you start reading him, you see it. So you have to, in the end, ask yourself, what's the main structure of the sentence he wants to tell you, and what's the other parts that are in it? If we had time, which I don't want to take the time now because we've got to move forward, we'll do it. Call me, or come on Fridays, or stay later now, or come earlier next time. I don't know, anything. I'm very accessible. My phone numbers? Yes, combinations. It says like this, Klal shel davar. Ha'adam lo nivra ba'avur matzavo ba'olam hazeh, ela ba'avur matzavo ba'olam haba. That's one of our classic forms. I think I even gave that as an example. It's a low ela. But the sentence continues. Ela shematzavo ba'olam hazeh hu amsoy lematzavo ba'olam haba shehu tachliso. So he says, man was not created, this is the first part of classic structure, man was not created for his matzav in this world. Ella, however, is low Ella, but bavur matzavo b'olam haba, for his condition, if we translate matzavo like that, his condition in the world to come. Ella, so it's a second Ella. Ella shematzavo shalom ba'olam hazeh hu emtsai lematzavo ba'olam haba shu tachliso. However, his condition in this world is a intermediary position, step, for his condition in the world to come. So he combined it, he put a low Ella in a low Ella. If you know the structures, you can then begin to pick it apart, and then you can finally ask yourself, well, what's the major form that he wants to communicate? If you don't know the structures, you're going to have a much more difficult time. And he's writing all over like that. Okay. Got this one? So the introduction first is, remember that the Gemara is a discussion, a dialogue, which means that statements do not exist by themselves, pretty much. There are a few, but pretty much it's a back and forth. You said something, or Abai said something, Rava said something. Abai said something, Rava said something. It's a flow, it's a back and forth. So the positioning of the statements make a difference. What's the relationship between what that guy said and what this guy said? So if you understand the relationships just for themselves, you'll be way ahead of the game. So let's look at this. The basic question, and this is in life in general, that a person has, I say something and then you say something. Someplace in my brain, even if I'm unconscious of it, is saying to me, are you agreeing with me or are you disagreeing with me? First thing, I don't even care what you're saying or why, bottom line, we have an innate, natural reaction. First thing, are you with me or against me? And that you have to, not even though the Gemara doesn't work that way in the sense of the emotion of it, because with us we're emotional, we have like that kind of thing, or even if it's straight the intellect, that element does get involved and we want to be able to pick it up. What's Abai doing Lagabe Rava? Abai, in relationship to Rava, what's he doing? He has a kasha, he has a raya. Okay, so we know he does not, usually Abai doesn't ring a raya for Rava. But okay, that's outside. But you have two other Amoraim. What's happening here? So there we're going to talk about three relationships. There's more, there's six, but we are basically going to focus on three. Next line. Almost before anything else, I want to know what is the relationship between what I said and what you said. So there's three. You can see them all on this page. There's similars with it, and remember, now we're talking about a couple, a pair of sentences. Before we did one sentence. So obviously it's going to be able to couple them and see the relationship. You have to do each one individually, know what it's talking about. But now we're going the next step. Two together. There's something to be learned from how they have been positioned in the Gemara. Rav Ashi did it tafka. So now you have similars, alternatives, and opposites. Similars. Let's do similars. Where the two statements are talking about the same or similar things, or the same or similar information. It's used in agreeing statements like proofs. If I want to bring a raya for you, usually it means that what I'm saying, you said something, or the Gemara brings a raya for some Amora, from some Tanaic information. So I want to know now what's the relationship. We're going to get to the specifics of this, but this is just, again, the format, and then we'll go into, will be that the relationship will be that they'll basically be talking similar statements, that the subjects don't have to be the same, but will either be similar or the same in different words. Hang in there for a second. Let's look at the examples of similar statements. Avram Avinu spoke with Hashem. Second statement, the father of Yitzchak davened to the master of the universe. Those statements are similar in that the things that both of the statements are talking about is the same thing, however in different words. And the piece of information that they're telling you about those things are also the same thing, just in different words. Right? Avram Avinu was the father of Yitzchak Avinu. Those two things are the same, really, even though different words. And speaking with Hashem is called daven to the master of the universe. Different words, but you have to say, oh, hey, that's he said the same thing. He didn't say anything different. We have Lashonos in the Gemara where we'll say sometimes, Had Amar, what's it? They said the same thing. We'll say, not Amar or Todavar, but that's Hebrew, but forget the, huh? Something like that. You have statements where we're saying it's like you would have thought maybe they have disagreements. Disagreements means on what we're talking about now is that the positioning of those two statements are contradictory or opposites, which we'll talk about in a minute. They're not. But it can be different words. It can also be in a different order. Like here we had just take this example. I'm not just on the fly thing. Avram Avinu spoke with Hashem. Hashem heard Avram Avinu. What I did was I flipped. What did I want to do? I wanted to flip the order. Not necessarily flipped the thing and the piece of information, but they can be in different order also. But those are the same. Let's go to the next one. David went to shul. Jonathan went to the yeshiva. So these may even be also similar. If you want to argue with me, I wouldn't say you're wrong necessarily, but they may be similar because David and Jonathan may be similar, though not the same, and going to shul and going to the yeshiva may be similar, though not the same. So they may be, you could argue with me that they're not really similar. Okay. But you could hold in a certain place, those are similar, so they're similar statements. Alternatives. We're going to get to, see here, do we have more examples. Alternatives. Hamit Khalfim, where the two statements have one of their parts, either the thing or the information, the same, and the other part is different. These can be used in disagreements. You want to hold that it's I don't know. What you say, David went to shul, and I say, not true. David went to the beach. We're talking about the same guy, talking about David, but we have alternative, total variation of what we're saying about it. So that definitely can be a machalokas or at least a kasha. But it also can be an extension. I want to talk about the table. I say the table's brown. You say the table's long. We're both talking about the table, but you're not arguing with me. I'm talking about brown. I'm talking about color. You're talking about shape or size. So you're not disagreeing with me. You're even taking the same subject and you're extending it. So there's a swing guy here. We have missions like this. Morning davening is till the 4th hour. Morning davening is till midday. So that's a machlokas in the Mishnayos. But they had the same thing they were talking about, which was the Sof Zman Tefillah, and they had two different pieces of information about it. That's called the Mitzchalef. That's an alternative. Another one. Oh, table brown, chair is brown. Good. Here's an interesting one. My benayhu, ika benayhu. Two statements in the Gemara. A sheila and a tshuva. Before we explain what is the ika benayhu is, but they want to know between these two things. We'll see one right in the beginning in Hamafkid. Gemara says there. By the way, did people bring Gemara's Hamafkid to work inside? You ready? Does everybody have? No. Okay. Because I'm already beginning to bring examples that we would do them inside already, but it works better if you have some. So again, maybe I should just go get those paper ones, and we can use those. Okay. So anyway, on daf, like any ika benayhu, you can get yourself, or if you come and let me know, I can stop by and pick it. Shai lamora. These are the easiest ones used because you also don't feel bad writing in them and underlining and do all that stuff. For 7 shekels, you know where that is? It's up in Geula, very close. Shai lamora. You go for 7 shekels. You can be a sport. You can have a whole Gemara, right size. Anyway, on Lamed Dal and Amud Aleph. Before the 2 dots where it says Shilim below Shava, we have, it says, My Benai, there's 2 days in Rava. So what's Benai? It's a type of alternative state. The relationship between that Sheila and that Tshuva, that question and that answer, that informational question, informational answer, is they have the same subject with 2 alternative pieces of information about it. One is saying these 2 positions, the first one, I want to talk about these 2 different statements of Rava, and what I want to say about it is I don't know if there's a difference, a halachic, a practical difference. My benayu. And the other one is coming saying, Ika benayu. The same thing they want to talk about. These 2 days in Rava of Naseh, there is a halachic practical difference between the two of them. Same thing they're talking about with two pieces of information about it. It's a type of alternative, the positioning, before getting into what the tshuva is. That's the next step. We're not ready for that yet. The positioning between those two statements, which is what I want to know, what our exercise here is alternative statements. They happen to be talking about the same thing with saying two different things about it. Okay. Opposites. Opposites is really where the fun begins. Because this is steers and kashas. And we're steers and kashas people. Hipchim. Where the thing and the information are the same or similar, but the affirmation or denial is different between the two statements. Turn the page for a second. You get a quick idea. David is going to shul. David is not going to shul. You have the same thing you want to talk about, which is David. And you have the same thing you want to say about him, the same piece of information, which is going to shul. It happens to be the one is Makayim, is affirming, is saying yes about it, and one is saying no about that same thing. David's going to shul. Statement one, David not shul. Next, all Jews have a portion of the world to come. All Jews do not have a portion of the world to come. The thing we're talking about is all Jews. What's the piece of information in the first one? They have a portion of the world to come. The second one, not. The first kasha in our Gemara is this. Both Behema and Kalim need to be taught in the Mishnah. Right? That's what the Mishnah says. That's what the Mishnah says. Right? Because the Mishnah says, Behema or Kalim, when it gets stolen and the Shomer, all those other conditional parts of it tell that story, that when the Shomer pays, the Baal will makna him the kefel. By the way, I mean, if you have the ability, it will be helpful for you to look at the beginning of a mafkid, whether you know it. If you know it, that's great. If you need to get brushed up on it, do it. And if you need help doing that, I'll help you doing that. Why? Because those are the examples. We want to have a Gemara. We want to actually start doing it in the Gemara. But it's better if you already have an idea what's going on. If you don't know what's going on, so the terms, kefil, is makna, So if not, it'll be better. We'll be able to move quicker and it'll be clearer. We won't have to explain the content as much. We're interested really about the form a certain way. Anyway, the Mishnah says, teaches us behema kalim. The first pircha in the Gemara, the first kasha in the Gemara is, hey, lamali masli behema, lamali masli kalim. That's the language. What it means is the dibur hayashar, the form we want to put it in. This is not exact, but it's close enough for the moment. Is both behema and both behema and kalim do not need to be taught in the Mishnah. That pircha, that kasha, the relationship between that statement has and the Mishnah are opposites. Hipchim. Why? They're talking about the same thing. And they say diametrically opposed things about it. Piece of information. The Mishnah is saying, because it does it, so that's what it's saying, according to our rules, that you do what you write it only if you have to write it. Okay, that's a part of the back logic. We're not up to that yet. But the Mishnah, if it wrote it, means you had to have it. Those are the rules we play by. And the Gemara says, not true. You don't have to have behema and kalim. It forms it in the way, more specifically, the way it says, lamali masa behema, kalim. We'll get to the more specific. But that's the relationship there is of that kasha, that pircha, is opposite statements, hipchim statements. What?
What are you being mechadish?
I'll be mechadish here that when a person, you will be well put, if you can have a clear picture of what that person said to you, or we're talking in the Gemara, when one says, the first thing, all right, are they agreeing with me, disagreeing with me? What's the form of the disagreement? Usually that's really what we're going to play. I'll say, they're saying exactly diametrically opposed. Look what the alternative is. You also have something known as contradictory statements. Contradictory statements are also a type of opposition. But hear it first. And if you can you know the form, and you can pin it down, you'll be quicker, clearer, I dare even say smarter. Contradictory statements, which are called misnagdim. The second sugya in the Gemara in Hamafkid starts with this Masna Rabbi Bar Chama, very strong kasha. The relationship between the Mishnah and Rabbi Bar Chama's kasha will be a little bit of a different. There will be a misnagid, a contrary, a contradictory. So I wrote there contrary. It's not contrary, it's contradictory. Kefel, this is what the Mishnah is telling us. Kefel, which is something that isn't in the world, can be sold by the owner. That's the day of the Mishnah. On that, Rabbi Bar Chama comes and says, things that are not in the world cannot be sold by the owner. You will notice that are they talking about the same thing? I'll ask you. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to ask you. Are they talking about the same thing? Mishnah's talking about kefel. He's talking about davar shelo ba la'olam, things that haven't come into the world. Are they talking about the same thing? They're not saying the same thing. The Mishnah didn't tell me davar shelo ba la'olam, davarim shelo ba la'olam. You mean to tell me? It is. So now I'm going to use my skills on you.
I've had that kasha. Hey, wait a minute. How can he be nothing in the kefil?
Yeah.
It hasn't come into the world yet. There'd be no geneva or something, right?
Yeah, but the Gemara doesn't say the word kefil. The Gemara says dvarim shelo ba la'olam. I know I'm being picky-yoon, but I want what? No, that's the Mishnah. The Rabbi Bar Chama is understanding the opinion, the daya of the Mishnah. Mishnah doesn't say it in black and white, but this is how he reads the Mishnah. He says in the Mishnah, you know what the Mishnah said? That's what Rabbi Bar Chama understood. He said the Baal can makne the kefil to the shomer. He has a kasha, strong kasha. Amasna, he says, Ein adam makne davar shelo ba la'olam. Good. I want to know exactly what's the relationship, the positioning, the relationship between those two statements. Because l'chora, the Mishnah is talking about kefil, and Rabbi Bar Chama is not talking about kefil. So you're going to answer me, well, of course he's talking about kefil. I'll say to you, right, he is. But he doesn't say the word kefil. So you'll tell me, no. Hold it. The Mishnah is talking about a specific. Because kefil is one of those things that shelo ba la'olam. And Rabbi Bar Chama is talking about the whole gamut of things shelo ba la'olam. He's talking about the klal. And the Mishnah is talking about the prat. See, he's bringing a klal on the prat. And that's what his kasha is. And I'll tell you, you are exactly right. Let's do that again. If I say to you, let's step off of the Gemara a second, let's take an example. If I say to you, all the Jews have a chelik la'olam haba, that's one statement. And I say, I'm going to bring a kasha to you. Yerovam ben Nevat did not have a chelik la'olam haba. So what's the relation? Why it's a kasha? You told me 100% of the Jews have. I showed you one guy in all Jewish history. Let's say I agree. Statistically, I'm agreeing with you with 99.99999. I only have 0.00%. One guy not, but the statements are in total contradiction, because you said everyone, and I showed you was not everyone by showing you one didn't have it. That is a certain type of opposites that's called contradictory. We use it all the time. One case is this kasha of Rabbi Bar Chama on the Mishnah. Rabbi Bar Chama told us a principle that all know. Ein adavar makdish balam. All davar shemaklams. I want to talk about the things I want to talk about is that general davar shemalams. And I want to say about them, the information I want to say about them, you can never mock them. The Mishnah is saying, I have one, you can. The position between those two statements is a contradiction. because he's saying all, the Mishnah is saying one yes, and Rabbi Yochanan is saying all no.
And how will that make things clear for them?
Well, that gives you, first of all, a format to be able to say it clearly that it's in the prat and the klal, and it's in, that's help. No? No. Okay. No. Try this one. I have it down here in the Mishnah. See this one over here? Tell me, please, what's the relationship between the Mishnah statement and Rabbi Yochanan? Oops. Okay. Tell you what, do that for, we have to keep to the schedule. Do that for next time. Try that. We had 3 types of positions: similars, alternatives, and opposites. We want to start applying them. This is the thing. You'll tell me what is this is, by the way, the Gemara on Lamed Daled Amud Aleph. He's not making a deal. He's not making a diuk. That's not a diuk. That's not a diuk. We'll do diuk next time. But he's not doing a diuk. But even if he were doing it, that's not what interests me here. I gave you 3 positions between relations between statements. One is that we have 2, and we're always dealing with a couple of statements, 2 statements together. They can be similars, they can be alternatives, variations, or they can be actually at loggerheads, either a complete or a contradictory. Right. You may have to first do the work that we did up till now, which is you have to fill out the statement before, because that will help you. So one example will be, work on that example. In terms of the Gemara here, we have the Mishnah, Shilem v'lo ratzah lishava, and then Rabbi Yochanan comes and says, Lo Shilem mash ela filo amar harei mishlem afal pi shelo shilem. That's a whole big sentence. It's one of your complex sentences, but there's an afal pi in there, so it shouldn't be too hard. Right? If you look, you'll see. If you now you know you're looking at afal pi. But remember, you're going to have to look for what's the thing he wants to talk about, and it seems to be they're going to have to be talking about the same thing. Meaning, you can't argue with somebody if you don't have anything in common with them. You tell me that Mack trucks have diesel engines, and the other guy tells you that little chickies, you know what I mean? So you guys are in 2 different worlds. You're not talking to each other. You're talking about trucks and diesel engines, and he's talking about little chicks and feathers or something. So you got to be so if the Mishnah and Rabbi Yochanan got to be handling the same stuff, either the same thing or the same units of pieces of information. Okay, work on that one. We'll do that. Next time there was a sheet that I want to, which gives a very clear picture about the opposites and the contradictions till next time. And next time we're going to do diukim. The real goal to do next time, I'm not sure we'll get there, I hope we will, is we want to start doing that creative part of the mind. Insight. The structures of insight. If you want to know, write it down. There's on a sheet. That's in chapter 7 in Derech Tfunos. If you get a chance to read it, the more you can put in before, even if you don't get a lot out of it, you get something out of it, will be helpful. Here, next time, we're going to talk about a classic. We're going to talk about a Hekesh Mofti, Kal Vachomer, Binyan Avs, Mematzinos, and Kal Vachomers. How to structure, how a Kal Vachomer is structured, how is Binyan Avik structured, and how we use them in the Shachlavataria a little bit. The creative part of the mind. We all do it all the time. This is what we live on. And this is really what Gemara is involved with. Now, all that of the last class and this class, well, now once we get to the insight part, it will start paying more dividends. You'll see the dividends more.